we're going to look at firmware today, basically how to upgrade, downgrade, and looking at the different ways to do that. Let's get going straight away, shall we? Firmware upgrades are important. They're important for any security updates that are important. If there's been a known bug or a known vulnerability spotted, they will be included in the firmware upgrades. There are also bug fixes, so you might be having a particular issue, in which case you may be recommended to go to the latest firmware or by reading the release notes. I'll show you those as well, and what you're looking for. And then sometimes you may need to downgrade, which basically you're going backwards, because again there's a particular feature that isn't working for you. I recently did a video about IBGP, and I was trying to get my route reflectors to work, and I couldn't on the latest version. The only way I could get it to work was to downgrade to the version which enabled me to get that working. So sometimes it is required, but it's also a good idea to, if you don't need to be on a particular firmware, then to try and stay up to date. Now, MikroTik have on their website, they have these two versions. They have their stable, and they have their basically their beta version. And now this is one that will be have new features in it particularly, but they won't have been extensively tested. So if it's not your production environment, it's just your test environment, and there's a particular feature in there you like the look of, or you've been waiting for, then yeah, it's always worth giving that a try. But just bear in mind that some things you may find a little bit buggy. Otherwise always best to go for the stable. We have all these different infrastructures of our chipsets, and this is really simple to know which one you're on. You basically, in your MikroTik and WinBox, it'll tell you at the top here in the brackets. I'm running a HAP AX2, and this is using ARM64. So you simply just go to ARM64 there. Main package is your main firmware. Extra packages, which we'll get onto, additional feature sets which aren't included in the main one. And then you also have, for this one, an ISO image, but there are further down here various different other versions, such as the cloud-hosted router version, depending on your infrastructure here. So you can get the raw image if you're running on VMware, for example, or you want the OVA template. So and again, for the same for SwitchOS. They have obviously if you are using click on something wrong there. Try that again. If you're using an older hardware, which isn't recommended to go to the latest firmware, then you have the older version 6 here. And then I'll show you also how to get any, because basically here we've just got the latest version available, but I'll show you how to get basically your archived versions of this software. So let's start by doing the upgrade. So my HAP is on 7.12.2. There's quite a few features changes in coming in 12 and 13. So, but that's still quite far behind the 7.8. Sorry. One thing to note in this one is the wireless option has changed. So with the advent of the AX chipset for the Wi-Fi, for the interfaces, the whole way that the MikroTik does the Wi-Fi now is in a different menu, and it has a different basically a different package installed. So packages are basically, like I mentioned, additional features that you may need. So here we have this Wi-Fi Wave 2, and that was how it migrated from the older AC Wave 1 Wi-Fi adapters that are in the MikroTiks to the advent of Wi-Fi Wave 2, and then since then that's now changed to, well, I'll show you once we upgrade what that changes to. So the way we're going to do it first of all is we're going to do it through the MikroTik. So I've shown you the website where you can actually download the images, and I'll show you how to do it that way, because I'll explain why this is an important way of doing it as well. But this is just providing your you have internet access on your, so this is your router, for example, we can always we can do it directly from here, and then all we need to do is just go for check for updates. It will connect and it will find the latest one, and it will give you the version here, which is 7.18.2. It tells you when it was released, which is on the 11th of March, and then it also gives you from the release notes here basically the changes that it's the basically the fixes or the new features it's bringing, and then you can also select your stable, your beta testing, basically development, or long-term support, which isn't actually shown on here. Is it on version 6? It used to have two options. Yeah, long-term. So that's basically like, if you're familiar with firmware releases, long-term is your it comes with more guarantees, basically, that it's tested because it's been more established. So yeah, we always just stick with stable, and then we can just download it and choose to install later if we want, but we'll go ahead and just download and install, and then you can see it will start downloading, and that'll just tick along there. Okay, and then finishes and it reboots straight away. Okay, so if you've ever done firmware upgrades on Cisco, for example, it takes quite a while. I'd say the longest thing is for the thing to reboot itself, and it's a bit more of a convoluted process. This is very user friendly. I think it's one of the easiest ways to firmware upgrade and downgrade I think I've come across in any walk of life. MikroTik is great because there's no you don't need any support contract or anything like that to be able to get the firmwares. They're available to anyone that owns a MikroTik. So yeah, it's really really good from that point of view. There we go. So now we see we're on the latest here. It gives us our firmware version up here, and then if we look at our packages, so now we've gone for the Wi-Fi QCOM, which is the newer version of the basically the package that manages the Wi-Fi. The actual menu still looks the same as it did with the Wi-Fi Wave 2, but that's basically upgraded that for us. Okay, so yeah, very simple. We've now upgraded. We also now have this option to select our packages in here, which we want. We just enable it and then reboot it. So if we wanted to run the Dude, there's various IoT stuff on here. The user manager here, the older wireless way of doing things, but yeah, we don't want that. We're on the latest. So yeah, before you'd have to, which I'll show you later, to install the packages. Actually, no, I'll show you now, because we're going to downgrade this, and I'll show you how we do that, because there's two things to consider. So firstly, what we're going to do is, as I mentioned, there's a way to get an older version of firmware. So if we want to go back to, say we want to go back to 7.12 again, so 7.12.2 is what we're on before. We just here's our main package that we can download. We just right click on that and copy link address, and then in a new tab we just paste it. But before you hit enter, just change that to 12 and that to 12, and providing it's a valid version, hit enter, it will start to download. There you go. See, it's given me a 1 there because I've already downloaded it earlier, just before. Which is, there it goes. So we can probably stop that download. But what we do with this now is we can just, to get files onto your MikroTik, you can either go through files and upload, or you can simply drag it and drop, and immediately open up your file list. Start transferring it. You can't click on anything else while it's doing that. There we go. So now if we look at our packages, we look at our files, there it is. So now if I do that straight away, what's going to happen is it's going to fail the downgrade, because we've got this extra package here which will be on the wrong version. So what we're going to do is we're going to also get the extra packages for it. So again, under ARM64, just actually, did I download the right one? I did, didn't I? a moment of doubt. Yeah, ARM60, ARM64, sorry. Extra packages. Again, we're going to right click on that, copy link address, paste that in here, change that to 12.2, which is the version we want. Now this is going to download a zip file. Again, I've already got it, so we just simply download that. So it downloads this zip file, which we can extract, and then when it's extracted, it just holds these, like we saw before in the other one. On the latest version, you can actually just select these ones and enable the ones you want. Because we're going back to an older version that doesn't have that that QCOM way of managing the Wi-Fi, we need to put on the older Wi-Fi package. So again, for that, we just drag and drop it on here. It's a much smaller file, only 10 meg. Okay, and now you can see both my Wave 2 and RouterOS are in there. So you do that for any other package. So say we're using User Manager or the Dude or something like that, you would then just do the same thing to make sure you've got all the ones in here. Now under the package manager, now we literally just hit downgrade. The reason I hesitate there is because to do the upgrade, all you need to simply do is reboot the device. You don't need to select upgrade. If you weren't doing it via this way, you would then just drag the files onto here, which I'm going to show you after we do this, and then you hit, and then you just reboot the device. But if I did that, nothing would happen. So I have to actually tell it to I want it to downgrade. So I just hit downgrade there, click yes, and then it normally takes, again, it will take a minute or two. Okay, so that actually failed, as you can see. One thing I forgot to mention is, yes, we did the correct thing we added both packages as we needed them. We hit downgrade, but because this is a different package to the one we're actually going to be replacing with, we actually need to disable this one. So this is very specific to the Wi-Fi section. So this is only if we're trying to downgrade to a firmware where we've got a package installed which is only available in newer firmwares. It's going to basically fail every time. We actually need to remove that one. So that's why it then says schedule for disable, and then we'll actually disable that until we then hit the downgrade. So we'll just do that again. Okay, and there we go. That time it worked. So yeah, I thought I'd leave that bit in there because, you know, real world, you often learn more from your mistakes than just being shown how to do something. So yeah, chances are that you would make that same mistake at some point or something similar. So yeah, hopefully that was clear enough. So now what we're going to do, the last thing I'm going to show you is upgrading via similar method to what we just did to downgrade. Now you may be thinking, why do I need to know how to do it? Because you've shown us to do it via the packages option, which yeah is valid. You can just use that one. But we're working on a MikroTik that's a router, and this router is connected to the internet. We could be working on a point-to-point link. We could be working on an access point. We could be working on an environment which is managing, you know, your operations, which doesn't have any internet access, because you want it, you know, it's critical that it doesn't have any access to the outside world. There can be a number of features or reasons. This could be a new one that you're configuring up for a client, and you've got it sat on your desk at the moment, and you're plugged just into it with your laptop, and you don't, you know, faff around giving it internet access because you know it's going to be, you know, it's not going to stay on your desk forever. It's just, you just need to access it to configure it, but you need to put it on the latest firmware. So this is the reason for this method, and to be honest, this is the way I still do it for all my MikroTiks, because I'm just used to it this way. Again, we're going to go to the latest one, so we just download this one. Okay, save. That's going to download that one. I haven't previously downloaded this version, so we'll just wait for that to download. We don't need to worry about the packages for this option because we're going to go to upgrade it. So it will upgrade the pack. It will upgrade the wireless for us. Is that downloaded? Yep, 7.18.2. Yeah, we just drag and drop. So yeah, so we could be configuring this offline. We could connect to it and just do it via its MAC address. We don't have to be connected via an IP address. So you could be going along manually plugging into each of these ones along the way. Your laptop, you may be in an area which doesn't have, very good communications, very good networking, because it's quite remote. So yeah, you can just then go ahead and upgrade them that way. So we just literally just dump it onto our MikroTik like that. And this time, instead of hitting any buttons in the package list, we just go to System, Reboot, and then yes. Now, one thing to mention, I've had it before where I had a bunch of, they were point-to-point links. We had them all configured, and at the last minute we realized that we needed the later firmware. So I went through and just copy and pasted, or just dragged them onto my MikroTiks, and then turned them off and thought, well, when they boot, they'll boot up into the latest firmware. But turns out they didn't, and the reason is you actually have to go and trigger that reboot. So you click System, then Reboot. You can't just pull the power, you can't just shut them down and turn it back on again. Okay, and there we go, we're up to date. Interesting. Okay, I stand corrected again. I did need that wireless package. So that is the reason why, by doing it from this option here, that would have installed that wireless package for me. As you can see, all we need to do on this version is just enable it. Again, a lot of this stuff is specific to the wireless. So if you've got a device that doesn't have wireless, then you can ignore all of this. And the other thing is, you're perhaps not making huge leaps as I am between firmwares. You may be an old one and hadn't upgraded for a while and decided you needed to. But it's always advised to do it in incremental steps. They don't have necessarily a firmware upgrade path like some vendors do. But certainly if you're downgrading as well, I would go back in, several small steps, just to make sure that, because stuff like this, where the features have changed, you could get caught out. Because as you can see, my Wi-Fi is now just saying master, but it's not actually registered the interfaces there. So we need to actually enable that. So we've done that. Other option, like I showed you with the packages, just make sure you download the same firmware version. And then drag and drop that QCOM across. Now all we need to do is just then, we've enabled it, so we just reboot again. System reboot. And yeah, there's been a lot of changes with the Wi-Fi adapter, the adapters, in the recent firmwares and hardware changes, significantly since AX has come along. So it's worth looking into that. MikroTik do have their own YouTube video, which is worth checking out, and I'll put a link to the description below, which will explain where the differences come from. Just wait for this to come back online. There we go. Okay, interesting. It still hasn't installed our enable. Okay, we actually need to apply changes here, not just reboot it. So that was my mistake. So yeah, once you've enabled it, click apply changes, and then wait for it to reboot. And there we go. As you can see, it's now installed that QCOM one. There we go. Now my Wi-Fi is registered again. Okay, so hopefully, that's given you some pointers, some help if you've tried to do this before under different scenarios. You tried to downgrade, it doesn't work. So it's useful to know. You never know when you need it. But if you've got any more questions, any ideas or anything else, please comment below. Please check out the website mikrotikmasters.com, where you can get in touch with me there, or comment on any of my videos or articles, tutorials on there. But if not, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.